not really good at making movies, but I'm pretty good at building cars. I wanted to shoot a movie about this car because it took a year to do, and I was worried that in doing so, my shitty movie would not show the car properly. So what you're going to see here is a best effort to show a year of work, a restoration that sort of shot for the best I could do for the budget, not cutting any corners, but also not necessarily covering all parts of the car. Again, I'm sorry, I'm not great at movies. The editing's going to suck. I'm sitting on the ground because my tripod doesn't go high enough for me to stand. Let's start with the paint job and work our way from the outside in. And then in the next video that I make, we'll take it for a drive, and I'll give you some driving impressions from someone that's really into 90s cars and Japanese cars and has done a bit of racing in them and driven a lot of them. So here we go. So this was the first car I'd ever had painted myself. I had a local shop do it who I'm friendly with, and they did a super awesome job. Starting at the high level, this is a 96 555 version STI. It's a V2. They made 500 of these. They later made a V3 555 STI RA V Limited, long one, and they made 555 of those. So while that one had potentially a few more goodies on it, this one is a little bit more rare. Just do a little walk around here so you can see the paint. It's a little dusty, it's been in the garage for a while, but it is beautiful. They took it down to the metal. A lot of the preparation work that I spent last year inside this barn, preparing it, really paid off. Removing all the trim to start fresh, removing the door handles, the lock cores, the gaskets around the door handles. If you look up here, if the camera focuses on this, this trim here around the roof vent, the weather stripping underneath, everything's new. This little rubber gasket under the pinch that holds everything on, all new. The sticker underneath, new. This car had the optional, the dealer option sticker pack on it when I got it, and I'll post some pics up, or maybe I'll link a gallery in the description of this video. It might be easier. And what had happened is that the car sat in the sun so long that the stickers cracked, the paint cracked, and moisture got through those little micro cracks in the paint. So the body shop really felt most comfortable taking it all the way down so there'd never be any corrosion. I guess starting up here, high level, this STI V2 555 had a couple things on it that made it different from a regular V2. One was that sticker pack I just mentioned. The other was this roof scoop, which was typically an RA option. This was a homologated roof scoop. Subaru opted to put one on the production car because it allowed them to then use it on the rally car. And the reason they had it on the rally car is because when you opened it, you could have your windows down and the cabin would have positive pressure, so the cabin wouldn't get dusty. So air would rush in here and then out the windows, and the dust wouldn't rush in and fill the car with dirt. So it was good ventilation, good comfort for the driver and navigator. Moving on down here, we have two identical symmetrical vents for the hood. Presumably that's to exit air from when it comes in on the grill. This is a divided roof scoop. These are really hard to find now. You can always tell the difference between the V1 or 2 and V3 because the V3 has a little bump in the middle. I'll show you guys underneath that in a minute what we've got going on under there. Other than that, the car is pretty much completely stock on the outside. I added these mirrors. These are OEM Subaru S201 mirrors. You can see there's a little wicker on the bottom here. It's pretty trick. Super low profile. A lot of guys are using the carbon replicas. These are sort of like Group A replica mirrors. But it's nice to have an OEM part because you can adjust the glass and its quality, and you know it's not going to fall out and break. Moving down here to the wheels. Right now we've got stock brakes. I can talk a little bit about those later. These are speed lines that the car comes with. It's another 555 edition special part. These replicate Speedline gravel wheels, which are actually slightly different because these are 15 inch and they don't fit big brakes behind them. The real Speedline wheels that you can't get through Subaru fit the big brakes. It's part of my restoration down here. You can see all the hardware is new. Moving under the car, the heat shields have been ceramic coated. I ported the headers when I had them off. It's got all new gaskets down there. Everything's super clean. This car came with some mud flaps that said 555 on them. It was missing one. I think commonly, like when you back up, it can get sucked under the wheel, and that's probably what happened. So I replaced them with these Pro Drive ones, which I found from a friend on a forum in the UK. So I was able to get original urethane flaps. They're a little weathered, but I remanufactured the brackets, re-anodized them, new hardware. And I wanted to do those brackets because I had taken off the original side skirts to give it the Group A look. And then as I took them off, I put a little dot of clear shield over the holes for each one. It's got a little dirt on there. The black side skirts didn't really appeal to me. It didn't make the car look as clean, so I took it off, but I didn't want to modify the body. I didn't want to weld these shut during the paint process, so I just left them as they were. And moving back here, again, the mud flaps. I thought these were nice just to keep the car from getting banged up. Again, I wanted to build this car to be a fast road car, a car that I could drive and really enjoy, and not necessarily a show car, although parts of this are starting to look like one. I'm really proud of the way it came out, but it wasn't my intention to make a car I was just going to polish and leave in the garage. I am going to take this to the track. Last thing on the outside before we move in, this decal. This is an original decal. They're getting hard to find. You can always tell the originals because these, when the camera focuses, it's almost like a pointillist style here, the way they do the graphic. And each year is slightly different. This little logo on some is pink. I believe that the V1 is pink. The colors vary too by year. This car also has an OEM exhaust. I'm not sure that I'm going to change it ever. I might. This might be a next winter thing. It sounds pretty good now, and you can drive it pretty fast without attracting a lot of attention because it's not super loud. You can see here also, like many Japanese sedans, has a rear wiper. I thought that's kind of cool. Shout out to STI RA forums in the UK for all the technical advice they've given. Let's move on to the interior. So inside this car, it's pretty utilitarian. It's got a couple nice seats, front buckets. In the rear, it's pretty sparse. Just basic cloth, 2 speakers in the back. That's it. It's a nice clean car. Everything's as it should be. I like to focus on up here for now. There's nothing really good going on back there. We've got our road flare. It's typical JDM car stuff. For the stereo, I used a US cassette deck from a 98 GC8. You can get the AdZest one from Japan, but the radio doesn't work because the frequencies are different. I'm playing with adding a small antenna port or a Bluetooth dongle to the back through the CD changer output, and that could sort of modernize the car with keeping the OEM look. It's a project in the works. I replaced the ashtray because unfortunately this was a smoker car. I'd say the majority of Japanese cars are smoking cars. I replaced this thing too. So it's all there, it's all new and doesn't smell like smoke. I really wanted the interior of this car to look standard and look period correct, but I wasn't trying to make it look perfect either. You know, the dashboard has some like weird white marks on it and stuff. I'm sure they'd probably come out if I really wanted to. I did change the shift knob. This has an Arai Motorsport shift knob. If I can get the glare off it, there you go. This is a super cool knob. They have a shop in Japan. They build, prepare, race rally cars. I thought this was a good homage to the car's history. The wheels are Nardi. When you take these covers off, it looks like your standard Momo or Nardi wheel, just like a normal racing wheel. And then Subaru adapted this cover so it looks like a finished OEM piece. This one's not perfect. It's got some lifting here, but I do like it a lot. I'll talk about the driving position a little bit in the next video. It's a weird car for tall people, but it's quite comfortable. What ends up happening is the wheel's a little too far away from you when you have the seat all the way back, just in my opinion. All the window controls are over here, just like any GC8. This car does have an intercooler water spray. You can press the button and it'll hold the spray on. That's really about it. Originally, the car had electric mirrors before I put the S201 mirrors on. There's not a lot to talk about in here, and that's actually the way I like it. This is not a DCCD car. The 96 RA had a DCCD option, I believe it was an option anyway. Normally you'd see the diff control dial here, and in the center of the gauge cluster here you can see there's a space for it, but there's nothing there. You would have the arrow front to back bias showing the differential bias. So this is the engine bay. It's pretty much stock. I forgot to mention one thing, and I'll share that gallery with pictures. The ECU in the car is from a UK company called Enduring Solutions, and what they do is they sell a daughter board. They can send it to you, and you can solder a chip bed in and then put the daughter board on that chip bed, and it basically turns the standard Subaru ECU into a standalone. And you can run the MAF, or you can run map sensor. The advantage for US buyers is that our gas isn't quite as good as Japanese gas when you're talking premium to premium. So a Japanese car driven hard on US 93 can knock quite a bit. So that's something I'll be addressing soon. I can talk about that in the drivability video. But the ECU is in. Now we just need to tune it. So here, still standard airbox. This is a silencer that I left in. Every early STI has this chimney. It's a heat shield that comes up and vents to this pretty complicated hood scoop on the underside. This chimney, unfortunately, I had it ceramic coated, and then I realized that I copied the V1 for color. The V1 is silver and all the other ones are black, so this was like one glaring mistake for Subaru enthusiasts that mine is silver. This as many are in every year Subaru, was chipping very badly. It was almost all silver. Part of my winter restoration when I had this whole thing apart was to strip the engine down and refinish everything in here. And as part of that, the intake manifold was redone. This is Prismatic Powder's Hacienda Red, if anybody's interested in the color. It's almost an exact match for GC8. And to throw a wrench in everything, Subaru changed the color of the inlet manifold a few times. Later cars are darker than the early cars, so if you have a later car, don't use Hacienda Red. The early cars also had this very obvious tilted intercooler. That changed with the V3. It straightens out. I have a V3 coming. I'll be able to show you that next year. The strut brace is pretty cool. It's a factory part again for the 555 version. Fuji Heavy Industries are sort of flexing their aerospace division capabilities with this carbon fiber. You know, this car, 1996, to have carbon fiber was pretty trick. And these are titanium, and the lugs are also titanium. They bond that carbon tubing to. Pretty cool stuff. Other than that, during my restoration, I replaced all the hose clamps, the majority of the hoses, refurbished the IC spray tank, and really gave everything a good clean. This was refinished because you can't buy them anymore. The accessory belt cover. All the vacuum hoses are replaced because they get brittle and hard after a long time. And a couple other trick little things. A lot of the bolts I took out were re-zinc coated, yellow zinc. And if you can see in here, the subframe mounts way down there, and that little black plate starts there and ends about there is a group N part, and that's a chassis stiffening part that I was able to sneak in there while everything was apart. So I was trying to keep it OEM, keep an OEM look. The car's got plenty of power as it is, but again, we'll talk about that in the next video. One more note while the hood's open, the masking lines, they really did a great job. You can't see any masking lines on this paint job. And then with all the trim having been removed, there's none obvious on here. You know, you get that typical line under there, but this was all done right down to the windshield, so really proud of the way that came out. So next video we'll talk about drivability, things I might want to change, and till then, talk soon. Stay safe, stay healthy. This is a weird time. I had a little bit of time to make a video because of this COVID craziness. I'm just at home, trying to stay sane. Stay safe, everybody. Peace out.